Roblox's new publishing requirements have been one of the most controversial updates of 2026, and it's somehow now worse. That says a lot considering how bad things have been, but unbelievably, this update may rise to a top 3 worst update of the year. It's at a point where this could genuinely change the landscape of Roblox games in a way that favor brain-rot cash grabs. One of the biggest concerns with these publishing requirements has been the 500 highly engaged player requirement for all ages games. If you're making a game that you want open to all ages, you're going to need to do a bunch of stuff plus have your game reach 500 highly engaged 16 plus players first. Roblox is locking all new playable games and perhaps some existing games to 16 plus age-checked users only before they can be unlocked to all ages. One of the several requirements needed to make a game accessible by all ages is for it to be played by 500 highly engaged users. Unfortunately, Roblox originally never said what highly engaged meant, and early indication showed they were either really easy or really difficult to reach. Some people were spending hundreds of dollars on game sponsoring and weren't able to get even 100 highly engaged players. Games with tens of thousands of monthly visits and users weren't able to get 500, leading to questions about what highly engaged meant, and Roblox has now answered. We now know what highly engaged means, and it could very well make things worse for both developers and players. A highly engaged player is a user who has met a minimum purchase amount anywhere on Roblox in the last 60 days. They don't need to spend anything in your game. This spend creates a real cost to abuse and makes it much harder for bad actors to generate fake engagement at scale. Your highly engaged player count grows as these users spend time in your game over a 60-day window. Highly engaged players play all kinds of games, including ones that are free to play, so your game doesn't need to be monetized for players to count toward your total. We'll adjust these criteria over time to capture more genuine players, always with safety as the priority. The main presumption beforehand was that highly engaged was somehow based on session length or gameplay signals, since that's what being engaged is. That would have been disastrous for games designed for kids, since 16 plus age users likely wouldn't engage much with a game for kids. And this is exactly where it affects developers like us. For example, we made a game called Aura Farm for cars. It is mainly an aura farming and tycoon style game, where players grind aura, unlock cars, and progress over time. Games like this are fun for younger players, but people older than 17 usually may not enjoy tycoon or aura farming games that much. So because of this update, the chances of Aura Farm for cars growing decreases a lot, because the game first needs highly engaged older players before it can reach a bigger audience. Even if younger players would enjoy the game may still struggle because older players are not really the main audience for it. That is why we also made another game called Maze Killer. Maze Killer is a horror thriller themed game where players spawn inside a maze, one player becomes the killer, and the others have to survive and escape before the killer finds them. Since horror, survival, and thriller games are usually more interesting for 17 plus players, Maze Killer has a better chance of attracting the type of older players Roblox is now making important for game growth. Highly engaged being based on how much Robux a player spends across a platform might be even worse for players and devs, though. A large portion of a game's audience basically has to have paid Roblox in the last 60 days for the game to be publishable to all ages, and it makes no sense. Spending a bunch of money on Roblox does not equal being highly engaged and should not be used as a signal to determine whether or not someone is. You can't figure out how someone plays a specific game or any game based on how much they spend on the platform as a whole. We don't know how much a player needs to spend to count as highly engaged either. So, it could be anywhere from like $10 to $100 in 60 days. We do note that a highly engaged user doesn't need to spend money in a specific game though, and just counts for total spend across the platform within 2 months. Judging by early indications though, it's very hard for certain games to get even 100 despite having tens of thousands of visits or daily monthly users. A highly engaged player needing to be 16 plus age checked and spend a certain amount of money on Roblox sounds even harder to get than just a highly engaged 16 plus year old too. It seems to be really difficult for some games but really easy for others. And we're going to get into why shortly. And it's not good. Someone spending a certain amount of money throughout the platform also doesn't mean they're better at spotting safety issues in games. One of the reasons Roblox is doing this is so highly engaged 16-plus players can help identify safety issues in games before they open up to all ages. Apparently, safety is the priority here. Yet, players not needing to be engaged with a game to count as highly engaged makes it less likely safety issues will be caught. Roblox isn't requiring a certain amount of players to be highly engaged with a game so potential problems can be caught before a game opens up to kids. Instead, they're requiring a certain amount of players to spend a certain amount of money on their platform to play a game so it can open up to kids. This to me sounds a lot like money is the top priority here since spenders are required to play a game for it to open to all ages. Even if it's not the main priority, though, these requirements are going to favor games that are highly monetized over games that are free to play or less monetized. Games that are highly monetized are obviously more likely to have active spenders in them since they have a bunch of players buying their in-game products. When your players are spending money on your game, that obviously means you have spenders in your game, and they're who Roblox is looking for here. While the spender doesn't have to spend money on your game, spenders are still more likely to be in games where they can spend versus games they can't spend in. It has become apparent that free-to-play or less monetized games are having a harder time reaching the 500 highly engaged requirements than highly monetized games. This means that it's easier for highly monetized games to get access to the full Roblox audience. While it may take longer or be impossible for less or unmonetized games to get there, Roblox is splitting the game ecosystem into two parts. One is a smaller ecosystem for 16-plus players only, and the other is a much larger one for all ages. The issue is that highly monetized games have a better chance to get into the larger all-ages ecosystem, and this causes problems. This may start filtering out lower revenue games and locking them to 16+ while pushing moneymakers to the forefront for everyone to play. For players, this means that over half of us will be directed to the all-ages ecosystem that now has a higher percentage of highly monetized games. All-ages players account for over half of the platform since non-age check people go into Roblox Kids, meaning they can only play games for all ages. Now, those all-ages games are more likely to be highly monetized with cash grabs likely being the quickest to gain access to the all-ages ecosystem. Highly monetized games are naturally going to have more spenders in them and often attract spenders more than something free to play. Newer, less, or unmonetized games may enter the ecosystem way slower or may never enter at all depending on how popular the game is. Under 16 and non-age check players are likely going to be fed cash grabs and pay-to-win games more now that Roblox has made it harder for lower revenue games to be fully accessible. This also likely ends the existence of smaller games and showcases being in the all-ages ecosystem forever unless Roblox changes the requirements. For now, Roblox has made their largest demographic more prone to seeing and playing games where they're encouraged to spend money. For devs, they're now encouraged to monetize their games more so they can gain spenders who need to play their games for them to be unlocked to all ages. If they're struggling to get 500 highly engaged players, then they may be forced to draw those players in or turn their non-spending players into spenders. This could affect 16-plus players, too, since they may see games they like suddenly become more monetized or pay to win. If a dev can't reach that 500 highly engaged player requirement, then they may be stuck in the 16-plus ecosystem and lose out on over half of the Roblox audience. Roblox evidently even recognizes lesser monetized games are going to struggle to reach the requirement because they randomly mention high spenders play them too. The probable end result, and maybe the actual goal for Roblox here, is the largest demographic of Roblox players being fed more monetized games instead of low or unmonetized ones. This appears to be yet another move to make Roblox more money, and it's hard to see it any other way since highly engaged users means active spenders. There's no reason for that to be the sole case if this is a safety measure and results in it being easier for games they frequent, which are often highly monetized, to become all ages. Roblox has thankfully said the highly engaged requirement will change, perhaps before Roblox Kids is globally released in June, but how is unknown. Hopefully, Roblox lowers the amount of required players and makes it have nothing to do with active spending, because that does nothing to help with safety. Realistically, the new publishing requirements are a big mess overall, and they should have stuck with these ones they released last year. These worked and were nowhere near as harmful to the Roblox community as the new ones that could end up changing the Roblox game landscape for the worse. These requirements unintentionally or maybe intentionally filter out less popular and now likely many lower-income games, pushing highly monetized ones to the forefront more. I really don't expect Roblox to totally deviate from this, even though they should, but they can make some tweaks that can make it less harmful. Unfortunately, this is the reality we've got to live with for now, unless Roblox actually listens and does what the community knows is best for them. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment,